everyone, my name is Hadel-Lynn. I am a registered nurse here in California, and I've been a registered nurse for the past year now. Everyone always talks about how much money you can make as a registered nurse in California, but they always try and limit it by saying how much you also have to spend living in California. So I figured, you know what, I am going to actually show you my pay stub from when I was a new grad, show you the breakdown of my gross versus my net income per paycheck, as well as show you how much I saved and spent per month. If you have any further questions or concerns, make sure to leave it in the comments below, as well as make sure to give this video a like and subscribe. And with that, let's get started. I want to start off by saying that this is my actual pay stub from back in August of 2025. Now, my pay stub fluctuates depending on how many shifts I actually work. There's a lot of times I've been canceled, and a lot of times I've been actually only working maybe 5 shifts a week instead of 6 because my hospital sometimes is low census, so we just cancel or get on standby, or I've had to call off, and so it really just impacts like the paycheck as well as the holiday differential. At least for my hospital, the holiday differential is time and a half, which is really good. So let's start off with my gross income per paycheck. So let's start off with my base. My base was $58 per hour, and I get paid every 2 weeks. So that's 72 hours per pay period. So if you multiply 58 times 72, that's $4,176. For me, I love working nights. I've worked days and nights as a nursing assistant, and so I know from experience that I'm just more of a nights person. And for my hospital, it is a flat rate of $7.10 for the night shift differential. There's no evening differential, neither is there a weekend differential. It's just a flat rate, and that starts from 7 p.m. all the way to in the morning, so 7:30 a.m. / whenever you clock out. So the night shift differential is a little interesting because you would think it would be multiplied by 72 hours per paycheck. It's not, because of the fact that for my hospital, we have only a 30-minute paid lunch, and then we have 2 unpaid 15-minute breaks. If you do the math with all that, that equals $489.90 just for the night shift differential alone. Now, if you combine my regular rate with my night shift differential, that equals $4,665.90 per paycheck as my gross amount per paycheck. Unfortunately, I do not get to keep all this money, which is where we talk about what is my net income per paycheck. Now, there are multiple reasons why my net income is way less compared to my gross income. One of those reasons is insurance. So let's break down how much is deducted from my paycheck per pay period in relation to insurance. So since I am in the US, healthcare is sponsored by the employer. So per paycheck, I pay about $71.59 for just my medical insurance alone. For my dental, it's $8.38, and for my vision, it is $1.84. In total, this makes about $81.81, which is kind of funny that it's just a repetitive number. The next thing we'll talk about is the taxes. The tax deductions actually are probably what kind of creates your net income to be much lower than your gross income here in California. So my federal income tax amount per paycheck was $686.61. My Social Security tax was $284.32. Medicare is $66.50. Now for the state exclusive taxes, there is the California income tax, and for that I have about $300.87. And lastly, the California disability tax, which is $55.03. So in total, all of my tax deductions equals about $1,393.33. So that's a big number. I feel like that's where a lot of people get the idea where California is very pricey because California is a very tax-heavy state. Now, the next deduction is retirement. And for my hospital, we actually have two different types of retirement. So I have the 401A and the 403B. Now, the 401A, I've had a deduction of $46.66. The 403B is $466.59. I put about 10% at this time towards my retirement. Now, my total costs per paycheck in relation to retirement was $513.25. Now, if you combine all of the deductions together, the tax, the insurance, and the retirement, that equals $1,988.39 of deductions. Now, if we do the calculation of my gross pay minus all of the deductions, my net pay per paycheck was about $2,677.51. So I actually created a chart to show the difference from my gross income per paycheck and show the breakdown of percentage-wise how much tax, insurance, retirement played a role in relation to my net income versus my gross income, as well as what my net income actually was in relation to my gross income. So if you look into this diagram right here, into this pie chart, taxes took out about close to 30% of my paycheck. Insurance took maybe close to like 2%. Retirement took out close to like 11%. It was kind of more like 10%, but I got to keep a little more than half of my paycheck. So just keep in mind that's how much of your deductions will go in relation to your actual net paycheck. Now, let's talk about my expenses. A big thing for me is I actually live at home with my parents and they do not charge me rent, which is very good. And during this time, I was actually paying off my student loans. Now I am student debt free and I'm gonna make a video about how I did that. But at this time, I was contributing a lot towards my student loans. So my expenses were a little bit lower. So I created a chart here in regards to how much I spend basically per month. And so I spend about $9 a month on Netflix because I share an account with my family. I spend about $32 per month for paying off my phone. I've had this phone for a while, so it's just like the family plan. So for me, I don't cook. I'm not that great at it and my parents don't want me to do it. So instead of paying rent, since eating out is very expensive anyway, what me and my parents have an agreement is every paycheck I take all of us out somewhere to eat so that way we can try new things in San Diego. So that's about $200 a month for all three of us, which honestly isn't bad. I have life insurance for myself, so that's about $150 a month. I've been trying to learn Spanish and I love the platform Dreaming Spanish, and that's only about like $8 per month. Now, working in healthcare, fitness is important for me just because it's a stress reliever and it also, it's important to be fit. So I spend about $130 a month at my gym. It is a very luxury gym and that is something I will not excuse at all. I love my gym. And I've also been taking Spanish lessons through italki. At least this is kind of more go at my own pace. So it's about $60 per month because I try to take a lesson per week. Therapy is important working in healthcare, so that's about $60 a month. I try to do maybe a session per week or so. And I'm not a big spender. I'm actually kind of frugal. I rarely buy things, and when I do buy things, it's things that I need, and it's not usually like the most expensive things unless it's something I need it for or if it's an experience thing. So that's maybe about $100 per month. Again, these costs fluctuate depending on the month. Obviously during Christmas I spent way more than this, and when I'm on vacation I spend more than that, but some months I spend way less than this. But anyways, my total average monthly expenses is $749. So if we take into account that I get paid every 2 weeks, let's just pretend that I get 2 paychecks per month. So if we multiply my net income times 2, that would be about $5,335.02. And at this time, I was actually trying to put at least $1,500 per paycheck towards my student loans. So that's about $3,000 per month just towards my student loans. And then my expenses, which is $749 per month. And then I also just try to have, just some extra money around, so maybe like $500. However, after all of these costs, I'm able to save $1,086.02 per paycheck. Now again, this is because I live at home. So if you look here, I actually made another pie chart because I just love like the circular, I just love just seeing things in a visual circle on my breakdown of my paycheck towards my costs and my savings. So if you look here, I am able to put more than half of my paycheck towards my student loans, which really helped with paying off my student loans so quickly. My expenses are maybe about close to 15% of my paycheck. My other categories, I like to call it, is close to 10%, and savings is close to 20%. Living in California overall can be pricey. Here in San Diego, rent, I would say for a studio, is about $2,400 a month minimum. It depends also where you live, and if you have roommates, those may decrease or increase your costs. You do need a car living out in California. You cannot survive in California without a car unless you're like in San Francisco. And then there's car maintenance fees, there's the insurance fees. For my insurance, I spend about like $500 every 6 months. That's also something to take into account too. Utilities and Wi-Fi and your phone, and if you have a pet or something, those are all other costs that you do need to think about. But these costs also vary if you have children that you have to think about, if you have a mortgage. Obviously, I have none of these, and so I'm just trying to be as transparent with you regarding my situation as possible. For context, I live here in San Diego, and Southern California is known to pay less compared to Northern California, but still greater than maybe like Central California, depending on where you're at. So this is how much I make per paycheck. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helps you decide whether or not moving to California is worth it for you as a registered nurse. If you have any further questions or concerns, make sure to leave a comment below, as well as make sure to give this video a like and subscribe. And with that, I wish you all a very good day and a very good night.